Hello and welcome to Awkward Family Conversations, where we try to help millennials and Zoomers like me figure out how to function in this world. It's difficult. I'm here with my dad, Rhett, who, I didn't think of Rhett trivia this week. Well, I could just share the lovely nugget of parenting advice that he just gave me, talking about my cat jumping out my window because I don't have screens and it's a beautiful day. And he said to let her jump out because she'll only do it once. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. Well, hello, Ed. And that is wise parenting advice. I mean, I guess health and safety being what it is, maybe second floor, two-story drop for a cat might be a little much, but people have to figure out what works. The best learning is experience. And so, you try something, and if it doesn't work, then you learn. So.
Okay.
I am here with my daughter, Addie, my youngest child. And Addie, I don't know if we talked about it or not, but Addie, though she is the youngest child, was the first in our family to get a tattoo. She's got body art. And when she turned 18, she got a couple of small tattoos and has subsequently gone big with a bird of prey on her back shoulder.
Another one. Got my appointment on the books. Got my appointment for my next one on the books.
And what's that going to be?
You'll see.
I see. Not sharing. So very good.
I can't tell Mom in advance what my tattoos are because she freaks out. So I just have to wait until they're pretty and on my body, and then she's okay with it.
Yeah.
So on the off chance that Mother listens to this podcast, and yes, it will be pretty large.
She doesn't. She really doesn't listen consistently, but yeah.
Doesn't. But
when is your appointment?
May 5th. So
another month or so, a month and a half.
Yep. I'll be fully vaccinated. So
yeah. Have you had your second vaccine?
No, mine is April 5th. And then April 19th is when I'm 2 weeks post-vax, and then I'm good.
All right. Well, you better be careful because your mother might be visiting you when you're getting your tattoo. So
that's true. Yeah. I'll just make sure that that's the time that she's in Indiana.
Exactly. Good. All right. Well, what's our topic for today, Ed? What do you want to know? What are we going to talk about?
All right. Our topic today is how do I find a mentor to help my career?
Excellent. Because mentoring is one of those things I think that a lot of young people overlook as a resource and can be extremely helpful. So we'll talk about mentoring today. So what do you think a mentor is, Ed? When you hear the word mentor, what does that bring to mind?
Someone who's older than you in your chosen career path or life situation, who gives you advice and kind of guides you through situations, teaches you, takes you on as a little student.
I think that's largely true. My 2 minutes of internet research this week, informed mostly from NPR and Indeed.com, is basically that. It's, a mentor is a more experienced person. This is a professional relationship, so it's not personal, although certainly you can develop feelings and emotional ties depending on like any human relationship that can happen. But by and large, a mentor-mentee relationship begins and largely stays in the professional realm. So it's about career, it's about professional behavior and performance and experience and knowledge, skills, those sorts of things. And it is largely a coach, and a more experienced person who is guiding a less experienced person and in a professional setting. So I think that's and we'll talk a little bit about some of these other nuances, but basically I think that's absolutely true. Now, why would you want a mentor? What value does a mentor provide you, do you think?
In my experience with a mentor, it's like, sure, I can look up how to do audio engineering stuff online, but a mentor really helps you get insight into the culture and introduces you to people and helps you kind of figure out how to be in the business, not just what you're doing in your business.
Yeah, that's really important, and we kick this off by saying a mentor can be a really valuable resource. What you just described is sort of the difference between the technical knowledge, the technical experience that you get by working, and then all of the other stuff that goes around in an organization. And when you're early in your career, when you lack, firsthand experience in a lot of these things, even though you may be highly trained, there's so much more that goes into a successful career than just being technically proficient, or even technically expert. There's, all of the soft skills that you have, and then there's just basic knowledge and perspectives. And, somebody who's more experienced has just had more of those experiences, more of those professional experiences, and they can share that information with you. And what that does is it helps you move up the learning curve faster, increases your productivity and therefore your value to your organization, probably leads to more responsibility and more complex assignments, which can develop your skills and experience and your capabilities. And that's kind of what you're looking for in a career, is something that give you a lot of, the opportunity to grow your professional skills. And a mentor can help you move more quickly by giving you the benefit of their experience and helping you become more expert at your job faster than you would normally. And I think this is one of those things that, especially people early in their career, feel a little bit, they just don't understand it, which is, of course, why I guess we're doing this podcast, is to try to help folks recognize that a mentor can be very valuable part of your career. And, so let's talk about how we can make that happen. So what do you think a mentor gives to you, more specifically than just kind of guidance? What's the value that the mentor provides, do you think?
Like having an ear to the ground, I guess, in your career community. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things at Belmont. One of my professors that I had would always do the lesson, and at the end of the lesson be like, and here are the things that are actually how this is used in the business. Because what you read on paper and what actually happens can be very different things. So like it's the personal side of it, I guess. And then like in terms of you, like you feel, they encourage you, they educate you, push you to pursue what you're interested in. And it's kind of like having a support system.
Right. Now, one of the things I think we need to really distinguish here is that a mentor is not a sponsor, which means that your mentor is actually outside of your sort of direct influence. They don't have a direct influence on your career. And you want this because, a sponsor is somebody who can directly affect your standing, your job, your career. So, somebody a sponsor is going to be somebody in your chain of command or chain of influence there that can affect, your job responsibilities, your job tasks, your bonus or your compensation or your training. But remember that if they're in that direct path, if they have the ability to directly affect your career, you have responsibilities to them. And the mentor is valuable because you can be you want the mentor-mentee relationship to be very open and candid. And you can't really have a completely candid conversation with somebody in your chain of command because they are obligated either by, sort of company directive, if you're saying, I really disagree with I'm having this issue at work, things that you can talk to your mentor about candidly, you may not be quite as, you need to be more circumspect when you're talking to somebody in that chain. So a mentor is actually, it's important to recognize that a mentor is actually outside, a true mentor is outside of that chain of command. If you have a sponsor, that's somebody who is really supportive of you, who's grooming you, who's paying attention to you, but also has the ability to directly affect your job, your position, your responsibilities, your compensation, your training, all of those things, or at least part of those things. And that relationship is different than a mentor. A mentor truly is a coach, somebody who's standing on the side and observing what you're doing and offering you feedback and offering you coaching and offering you advice. You mentioned encouragement. That's really important too. The mentor is a fan of yours. It's somebody who's in your corner helping you, but they're not in the ring with you. They're not in a position to, give you a particular assignment or reward you in a specific way. They are outside of your training. So when you're thinking mentor, don't think about, your boss, your subordinates, your boss's boss, anybody that has any kind of input to your performance evaluation, anything in terms of your bonus or compensation. Those are not mentors. They can be valuable resources as well, but they're not mentors. Those are going to be more your sponsors. But your mentor is somebody who is a resource, who's going to give you advice and counsel, who's going to give you encouragement. You talked about it, can introduce you to other people to give you more information, build more relationships that are going to be important to your success. And they're looking out for your best interests, but they're not in a position to directly affect what you're doing right now. They may grow, you may have a mentor and they may become a sponsor of yours because they really value what you're doing. And they decide, what, I think that I like the cut of Addie's jib there. So I'm going to hire her. And at that point, they stop being your mentor. They start being your boss or your sponsor in that kind of place. But really key, I think, to differentiate mentor and sponsor. A mentor, again, somebody outside, somebody who's sitting on the sidelines watching you and helping you navigate your career, which means it's a totally candid, very open, transparent relationship where you should feel confident enough to express your doubts and your concerns and your uncertainties, which is not exactly the kind of image you want to project to somebody in your hierarchy. And so that's, I think that's really key, thing to recognize when we're talking about mentors. So tremendously valuable resource, but there is a specific role, and there are, sort of criteria that defines the role that are important to recognize. And so when we're talking mentors, we're really talking coaches, as you described it, and really talking about somebody who is not directly involved in your career, but again, it's more this resource. So how do you think you go about finding a mentor? Do they just sort of show up and say, Addie, I'm going to be your mentor? What do you think?
Honestly, in my experience, yes.
Okay. So let's actually, I'm curious. You've made reference to mentors that you've had. So, you're 22 years old. I'm surprised, I guess, that you've already been able to establish mentor relationships. But when you've had mentors before and they've sort of volunteered for the position?
Really one comes to mind when I was working at Starstruck I was interning at Starstruck, so not like an actual job kind of situation, in which case it wouldn't have been a mentor. One of the staff engineers who did most of the tech stuff really took me on under his wing. And that was largely I asked him questions. I went out of my way to go talk to him and everything, but I was never like, can you be my mentor? So I worked for him for probably about 6 months, working directly under him, talking about how to get ahead in audio and also learning a bunch of stuff. And then eventually I just asked him formally to supervise my internship. Mm-hmm. So I was like, hey, I want to keep interning, but just with you.
Yeah.
So he didn't have any sort of control over when he was supervising my internship. It was just to report to my teacher, yep, she showed up to work.
I see.
It was not about pay or anything. Well, that was just kind of a serendipitous relationship, and also adorable and very lovable. So,
well, but I think you said a couple of important things there that said it really wasn't an accidental mentorship. Is that you sought it out, you asked for that, and that really is, it's a simple question. How do you find a mentor? You ask somebody to be your mentor, and really, but rather than, the thing. To be most effective and for this to work, you need to be intentional. You need to know what you want out of the relationship, because the mentor is really doing you a favor. This is very much a one-sided or heavily weighted relationship. The mentor-mentee. The mentee is getting tremendous value from the relationship. The mentor is getting sort of indirect value, indirect benefit by helping somebody else. That, which feels good to people. We've talked in past episodes about, how people like to help people. And that mentor is helping you, and they're getting some sort of, indirect benefit from that perspective. But really the most benefit is accruing to the mentee. And therefore, in these relationships, the mentee, even though the mentee is less experienced in the professional realm, the mentee needs to run the relationship. And so when you find a mentor, the way you find a mentor is knowing what you want to get out of the relationship. Be intentional. Think about your career. What are you trying to accomplish in your career? And where do you need the guidance and the help? And once you understand that, then you start to identify people who are successfully performing or who have successfully performed those skills, that experience that you're looking to understand better. You know, you identify people who have done that, who have demonstrated what it is that you're trying to learn and trying to incorporate into your skill set and into your knowledge base, into your experience set. So you need to understand your goals, and then you start to look for people who have successfully done that. So do your research, try to understand, okay, if what I'm trying to get is to a particular position, then I need to find somebody who has got to that position. If I'm trying to find somebody if I'm trying to get to a position, or if I'm trying to get to a space where I have this set of experiences, I need to find people who have successfully done those things. If I'm trying to develop a skill, I need somebody who's already got it and can tell me, can coach me through what I need to do to get to that point, as opposed to me sort of wandering around and trying to figure it out myself. So do your research, find those people, and then analyze your own network, your own professional network, which includes your past professors, includes friends of yours, relatives, because it's a lot easier to convince somebody who already knows you to help you than it is to go in front of somebody sort of on a cold call and say, hey, give me your time, your energy, your focus to help me in my career. And I don't really have a whole lot to offer you. What you have to offer is success. They can look at you, see your success, and feel, hey, I contributed to that person's success, which makes me feel good. I helped you achieve your goal. That makes me feel good. So your ability to project confidence that their help will help you be successful is your biggest calling card. And again, it's easier when you have somebody who already knows you and can make that connection better for you. So identify your goals, figure out what it is you want, identify people who have done that, who've gotten to that point and can help you get there. And then, look to see if there's anybody that who sort of fits that bill already. I see our audio intern has made her appearance.
The intern has made the appearance. I watched her walk across the floor and I was like, what's going to happen? And sure enough.
She didn't jump out the window then.
She didn't. She's here for cuddles.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. So you've found somebody that fits the bill for you. How do you approach them to ask how to be your mentor, or how do you make the pitch to them that says, I'm worthy of your time? What did you do when you had your experience, when you reached out to your audio engineer mentor? What did that conversation look like?
It was, I see the script that you've written out here, and I'll let you go into the details, but it was very it followed this loosely, just kind of accidentally. I didn't look up how to get a mentor or whatever. But when I started at Starstruck, I was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna intern here. And then throughout the time that I spent there, it was kind of like, oh, I get along well with you. You're doing in your careers things that I want to do in my career. And I learn really well the way that you teach. This vibe actually works very well together. And so after establishing that, okay, this is a good fit, then it was kind of like, hey, will you actually take me on?
Yeah.
But it definitely started with the informal, is this something I want? Instead of just jumping in and being like, yeah, this is definitely going to work, without knowing what our approach to teaching or mentoring is.
Yeah. It really should start with sort of an informational interview, only it's sort of reversed. Instead of looking for a job and having an informational interview to see if the position fits with what you're looking for and where you want to go, you're actually saying, I have a role Now I'm interviewing you to see if you might fit that role. And, that role being mentor, right? So, before you say, hey, you want to be my mentor? Sit down with the person you're considering, and then make sure the fit is right. And so how do you do that? Well, you want to be very concise, because remember, the mentor, well, there's a couple of things to remember. The mentor, is more experienced, is probably going to be busy, and is not going to get as much out of the relationship as you are. So you want to be super respectful of their time and energy. So you want to be very specific about what you want. So you need to be able to know, you've been able to articulate the goal that you're working towards, why you're interested in working with them to help you achieve that goal, and what do you hope to accomplish towards that goal based on what your relationship can look like. So, get that elevator pitch down, that 2 or 3 sentence, like, hey, I am interested in achieving this. I know that you have done this before, and I think working with you, I will be able to get A, B, and C, which will help me achieve this goal. So be very specific, be very tight and concise. Also, show them what it is in their background that makes them appealing to you. Some of this is just sort of stroking the ego, but really, you want to be able to be able to identify something that they've done, hopefully more than one thing that they've done, that will create that value for you, so that you can say, okay, I can give you the reason that you could be a good mentor for me. You also want to let them know that they're not going to be doing the heavy lifting here. The mentor, what you're going to ask the mentor for is their time, and their knowledge and experience are just going to come with that. So you're going to say, I will, we mentioned that before, because you're deriving most of the value out of the relationship. You have to do most of the work. And so you want to let them know that it's not going to be their responsibility to be scheduling meetings and tracking you down and calling you and stuff. That's going to be you. All they have to do is show up and help you. So, you're going to take responsibility for driving the relationship. You're setting the goals. You're going to schedule the meetings. You're going to write the agendas, and make sure that's explicit up front that, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time. I'd really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me. I will, schedule the meetings. I will make sure that, you get the agenda the day before, so you know what we're going to focus on. So maybe you can give it a little thought, make it as easy as you possibly can for them. You're looking for low friction here, because they're not going to get nearly as much out of it as you are. And you want to make sure that they understand that you're not asking them more than just giving their thoughts, and encouragement and their support. You're not asking them to do all the logistics of the relationship, and set expectations for the time commitment. So, and usually it's about 30 minutes a week, and maybe that's every other week you meet for an hour. Maybe it's every week you meet for 30 minutes. And you can do it over coffee. You can do it, you can figure out what works best, but let them know that that's a finite time commitment, that you're respecting their time, that you're not going to be one of these people who are calling 2 or 3 times a day saying, hey, let me run something by you. That's not what this is about, right? This is bigger picture. This is goal oriented, and this is going to be structured. And you want to let them know that that's happening. And you can even say, well, I'm going to need about 30 minutes of your time every week, probably for about 2 or 3 months. Or you can just say, I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get to this point. We can meet 30 minutes a week until I get there, or 1 hour every other week, or whatever it is to get there. But make sure that they understand that their commitment is time bound. Because again, you want to reduce friction. You want to make sure that they understand, 1, you're not going to be high maintenance. 2, that it's not going to be a time sink. And then also make sure that they understand that they have the option to decline gracefully. I mean, you don't want to start out trying to guilt somebody into helping you. It's not a healthy relationship. And understanding that they're not going to get a lot out of this. Maybe they've got a lot of stuff already on their plate. Maybe they've got a couple of mentors or mentees, and they're not quite ready to take anyone on again. And hopefully they'll be honest with you about that. But the more explicit you can be about what that relationship is going to look like, the more you can give them comfort that you're not going to abuse the relationship. And I say abuse kind of in quotes and broadly speaking. you're not going to take advantage of them by asking them for a huge time commitment or emotional investment and those kind of things. You want to make it as frictionless as possible and let them know you're serious about getting their feedback, but you're going to be respectful as well of their time. And then also have a backup plan in place. If they can't or won't do it, have a plan B, because then it's if they do turn you down, it's not like, okay, I got nowhere to go here. So, because if I feel like I don't have anywhere else to go, I might go for a harder sell. And again, hard sell with a mentor relationship, probably not the best answer. You don't want people uncomfortable. This is supposed to be a mentor-mentee relationship, can be very special because it's totally candid. There's no other agenda other than them helping you navigate a particular part of your career so that you can be more effective in that. So you've got somebody who's successfully, who's decided, you've made the pitch, hey, we've had our informal interview. I think you'd be a good fit. So, you come back and say, based on our conversation the other day, I would love to work with you as a mentee to be able to develop this particular goal that I have. And I'd be super respectful of your time, no more than 30 minutes a week. I would take care of all the scheduling and make sure that, but if I could get 30 minutes of your time every week where we could talk about, what my experience has been, what I'm going through, what I've learned and what I need to learn, it'd be great. And they've said, yeah, okay, I can do that. Let's set something up. How do you make that work? What does that ongoing relationship look like? How did it work for you with your starstruck mentor?
I went to my internship.
And how much? Yeah. So how much time did you interact with him every week?
I was usually there for a couple hours, at least twice a week.
Okay. So
but that was also
5 hours a week. And then how much of that time was spent in conversation about building skill,
about building skills, like switching more towards the mentor stuff, not that as much. It was like, about 30 minutes a week between the 2 days that I'd be there.
Yeah.
Like at the end, we'd kind of be like, okay, this is what we did today. And when you come back on Wednesday, this is what we'll do again.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. So, again, everything in this relationship is organized around goals. You want structure, you want explicit goals. So you're on the same page and it. It's important to meet consistently too. That demonstrates, good habits, set expectations. And, if you're meeting every week or every other week and you're meeting at the same time, same day of the week, it just becomes, it's easier to kind of keep that momentum going and keep that happening. So meeting consistently, because that sets the expectation in your mentor's mind. Oh, okay, it's Tuesday at 10. I'm going to talk to Addie, for a half hour, or it's every other Tuesday at 10. I'm talking with Addie for an hour here. So I'm setting apart that in my mind, as opposed to saying, oh, Addie's meeting me with, at 4 o'clock on Monday this week. And then next week it's, Friday at 2. So it's now a week and a half since I've talked to Addie, almost 2 weeks. Right. And so it just sort of, you want a nice rhythm. You want it to be predictable. You want to have that expectations. And, you want to set an agenda and get that agenda to them the day before your meeting so that they can reflect on it, even if it's just happening in the background of their mind. Those meetings are going to be a lot more productive if they know, hey, we're going to talk about these 3 topics tomorrow because these are 3 things that came up during the week, or these are 3 things that have been on my mind, and I'd like to get your perspective on it. It doesn't have to be, it's going to, you don't have to set it, just bullet points. Hey, I'd like to talk about these 3 things when we meet tomorrow. Just, preparing them so that they can be most effective for you. So again, it's all about the goals. These pieces, that the agendas are going to be related to the goals, and it gives you structure. It gives you the ability to stay on point. Gives you focus to what you're talking about, so that you're moving forward in the areas that you want to develop this knowledge, these experiences, and the skills. This is a candid relationship too. So ideally, you're going to hear some things that you hadn't thought of before. I mean, that's the whole point of a mentor relationship is I don't know what I don't know. and I know, maybe I know what I don't know, but I might not know what I don't know. And so help me through this, help me navigate this, this part of my career. And they may tell you, you're kind of screwing up by this. That wasn't a great way to go about, getting where you want to go. And you can get defensive about that and say, but remember, this is a coach. This is somebody that's outside of your evaluation sphere. They're not looking at your job performance in a way that's going to dock you pay or take away responsibilities or create negative feedback in a way that's going to affect you directly. But they can be super candid and tell you, hey, that may not have been the best way to do that. And when they do that, you're constructive criticism can be super helpful. In fact, that's some of the most helpful feedback you'll ever get, is the corrective variety. And you want your mentor to be able to give you that. So you need to stay open, and you need to recognize that, hey, these guys are my coach. This guy is in my corner. This person is helping me because he or she sees value in what I'm doing and believes in my success or the opportunity in my success. And so, you got to keep that open, not respond defensively, and be thankful for that. For sometimes the tough criticism or the tough feedback that you might get. Most of the feedback is probably going to be super supportive, very encouraging, because that's because you're competent in what you do, and most of the time you're going to do a good job. But you want them to feel comfortable enough to tell you when you do sort of fall short. Hey, that you need to go back and look at that, or you need to develop more in this area because what you did was probably not, probably wasn't the best choice or the best decision to make. Remember that mentoring is a professional relationship. It is not therapy. This is not a place. You don't take your emotional problems in here and say, hey, you do if it's affecting your work and your ability to concentrate on a task or your ability to actually execute a task that you've talked about. It's okay to say, you know what, emotionally, I'm having this struggle, but it's related to the goal, right? It's related to, you can talk about that candidly with your mentor, but it has to be related to the goal. And you should talk about those things that are getting in the way of achieving the goal, even if it's a little uncomfortable for you. Because that's how you're going to get better. But remember that they're not there to solve all of your self-esteem issues. These need to be, if you have a self-esteem issue that's affecting how successful you're able to be in your role, you want to talk about that. But this is not a time to talk about, when your pet died, how your sister was not super supportive, and it's giving you some additional trauma outside, which is distracting you. That's probably not where you want to go. You really want to talk about, hey, I've been really distracted. What are some tools, and when you're distracted by things outside the work, how much do you share at work, and how do you navigate through those things without trying to actually solve those problems, with your mentor? So set and respect those professional boundaries, and allow for human interaction. And it is very possible that you will develop personal relationships with your mentors, and that's great. But don't expect it, and don't sort of put it in. Don't sort of make that part of the goals. Mentors can be great professional references. They can make great introductions, but they got to believe in you and remember that this is still a professional relationship, and needs to be your thought about it needs to be, how can these people help me professionally achieve my goals? And remember that they're investing in your success. That's their only payback here. You don't pay mentors if you buy them a cup of coffee every week when you meet or something like that, but you don't pay mentors for their time. They're giving it to you, and you need to be respectful and appreciative, and you need to give them your success because of their input and their commitment and their investment of time and energy into you. That's that's really, that's how you get the most out of a mentor. Is keep it goal oriented, be super transparent, ask them tough questions, and the more you put on the table, the more they can help you with. But be respectful, again, of boundaries, including time, but also emotional investments. It's also important that you demonstrate your commitment to the relationship. And again, we talked about on the front end about scheduling the meetings, setting those agendas, getting those ahead of time. It's also important to follow up. So after you have your meeting every week or every other week, whenever it is, write up some notes. Hey, I had a super great meeting the other day. I really appreciate it. We talked about these three things, and your feedback on each of these things. On topic one, I really appreciated X. On topic two, that was really insightful. That Y piece that you did was really helpful. The third thing we talked about, I didn't feel like we got a lot of clarity, and so I'm going to want to come back to that. So set the expectation up front with an agenda, and then follow it up with feedback or some close the loop on that to say, this is what I heard, and this is, so we checked off the first two great things, but the third one was, I don't feel like I've totally got what I need out of the third one. So we're going to come back to that. So, create that feedback loop for your mentor for a couple of reasons. One is to keep you on point and keep the relationship focused. And then the other part is to recognize that they can be a super valuable reference for you, a super valuable resource, because even though they don't fall outside of your direct sphere right now, they can be a future resource for you as it relates to introductions to other folks. And then again, professional references as you move through your career. You can always point to these folks who are very experienced, more experienced than you are, and say, hey, this person believed in me. And so, what are you doing? They're over there on the chair. All right. Sorry, the dog's time to walk the dog, and Don has interrupted our Zoom call here. So, anyway, so where were we?
They're very valuable reference.
Yes, so they can be super, super important, and so you want to treat them well, and you want to give them the confidence that know what you're doing, and that that you're getting what you need from them. And the way you do that is by demonstrating how thorough you are and how responsive you are. And that, that can be really, that's got to be something in your mindset too, is that, they're not only great for navigating the specific issues you want to deal with, but they can be valuable resources further in your career, even after you're finished with that relationship, that specific mentor relationship. They can still be valuable to you. So, even though they may not be, you may not have an active relationship with them, they can still have value down the line for you, and you want to make sure that you're able to leverage that down the line. But it's also just a matter of respect and demonstrating that you're committed to the relationship, you're committed to making yourself better, because again, that's what you're offering to them, is that your future success. So, how many mentors do you think are ideal either at a time or through your career? What do you?
At a time, I mean, I would not do more than one. That's a lot. That is a lot. Throughout your career, I don't know. I guess it depends on what your career looks like. Like, in terms of what I currently not expect, because I know it's going to change. It's want my trajectory to be where right now I'm a vet assistant in tech school, but I want to become a DVM and then eventually work in zoo med or wildlife rehab. I'm assuming that probably throughout school, I'm going to have a different mentor than when working in wildlife rehab. And right now, as I'm in tech school, I have a very different mentor than someone who would be a mentor during DVM school.
Right.
So, I mean, it depends on how many, I don't know if I put a number on it, but I feel like there'd be one person for each a changing aspect of your career. Yeah. Because whoever mentors you while you're, an assistant is not going to be the same person while you're the boss.
Yeah, and that's really wise. I mean, and that's exactly right. Because remember that your relationships are really based around your career goals, and your career goals change. And it's not just your career goals and what you need to be successful in your career. Yes. And that changes. It looks different, as you just described. It looks different as a vet tech than it does as somebody who's in veterinary school than it does for somebody who's out of veterinary school and working in a field. And so, you should have many different mentors during your career. And the more you can, but in terms of how many mentors you have at once, it's really, I mean, the answer is exactly, I think, what you described. It's not one, but it's how many you can manage with these relationships where you're setting the agenda and you're following up. And, that takes an investment of time and energy. And for some people, one would be enough. Other people, can have several at a time. But if you do have several at a time, remember that you've got to commit that energy to each one. And so it's really a question of how much extra time, how much extra energy do you have to devote to those relationships. And it's really, the limit is by how many of those fully involved relationships you can manage. There is a concept that is gaining traction, which is, sort of it's kind of like a board of directors. It's called, your board of mentors, that you would create a group of people who would give you the kind of counsel that you need for various parts of your career. And even after you've finished a relationship with somebody, even after you've accomplished the goals that you set out for somebody, you can keep those relationships alive and revisit things with them in the future. And so, keeping those mentor relationships alive is certainly it can be really important. And again, we talked about the references and the introductions. Once you've established a relationship and once you've proven, hey, this person has helped me with their success, they're invested in you now, right? I mean, you've got a connection there. And you don't want to let those just sort of drop by the wayside. So, this idea that you can create a board of mentors, I think, is a really powerful one. And, and if you're early in your career, you can start to assemble these people into a panel really of resources that you can call on at different times to say, hey, I worked with you trying to become a better public speaker. And I feel like I did that. But I've just, but I feel like I need to take it to the next level. Do you have time for me to just check in with you for about a half an hour, just sort of ad hoc, and talk through that? And they're likely to say, yeah, that sounds great. Let's set up a time, because, then you're managing these different relationships in the same way you're managing friendships and family relationships and things. But staying actively engaged and creating this board of mentors, I think, is a great idea. And you're right that you're going to have. Ideally, you can develop mentors throughout your career. You can always use a mentor, unless you're in the very final stages of your career and you're wrapping things up. But even then, you've got people who have done this already, and great opportunity to talk to people who've gone before you. Basically, the mentor is somebody who has gone before you, and they're just sharing that experience and their knowledge and their perspective with you. And any place you are in your career, you can benefit from that. And it's a resource that's available to you, but you need to initiate it. If you're just going to sit passively back and wait for somebody to volunteer as your mentor, you might get it, but you probably won't, and it probably won't be exactly what you need. So like in most things in your career, if you want something to happen, if you have a goal in mind, make it happen. You got to make it happen. And this is that the whole thing we've talked about really for 3 seasons, about being intentional. Think about what you want, chart the path, and feel free to change your mind, but try to get what you can out of the relationship. So that's kind of the story on mentoring.
Nice.
Does that make sense? Do you feel like you understand mentoring now?
I do, actually.
Are you going to seek out mentors in your career now?
At this moment in time, probably not.
And why not?
Life is a lot, and I don't know what I want to do with it.
Well,
so,
but you know what professionally you want to do. You have a career path in mind, right?
It is a little bit hard to find people in your field, not who you work with during a pandemic, though, I will say.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, and finding, especially early in your career, finding those people, you probably won't find a ton in your network, but you do know, Callie's got a friend who's a vet, who's gone through vet school, right? Danielle.
Oh, yes, she does.
So, I mean, there are people in your network that you can avail yourself of, and maybe you say, hey, Danielle, can I pick your brain about vet school?
I would never use that phrase, but sure.
What's that?
I would never use that phrase. I hate it.
Okay. Well, however you do it, there are people that you can do it. And I guess that's my point, is that you probably know more people than you think.
Yeah.
And you just need to spend some time kind of thinking about, okay, what do I need to do? And then just start talking to people that you know who might be able to make those introductions. So, you're talking about vet tech. You actually have got a couple of resources in your practice, but maybe those folks can turn you on to people who are outside your practice who are better positioned, so you can have more candid conversations with them about your concerns or your doubts or your uncertainties. Because I think that's a really important part of that mentor-mentee relationship, is you're able to share your concerns and your you know, the things that you're not super comfortable about that you wouldn't be as comfortable sharing with somebody you're working directly with. So
yeah.
So anyway, good. All right. Well, that's what we had today. No swearing again. I think we might have to just eliminate this from our.
No, I've made my $1 and I'm keeping it. So I'm holding on to that for the next time you slip up, sir.
All right. Fair enough. Although I think I've made a couple of bucks. So
you've made 2.
I have. So I'm ahead on the deal.
I've made 1 and I maintain that I deserve like at least 50 for naked time.
Naked time. Yes. Gotta love naked time.
No, I don't.
Hey, I was just reading something the other day that said people that sleep naked, couples that sleep naked, actually have healthier relationships, and they think it's because of the body-to-body, the skin-to-skin contact. So.
Stop. We went back to the workplace for a reason, Dad.
Yes, very good. Well, what's our topic for next week, Addie? What are we going to say?
The topic for next week is when should I volunteer at work?
When should I volunteer at work? When should I raise my hand?
For my little communist soul.
What's that?
So that's an interesting one for my little communist soul.
Well, yeah. So we'll see. No, that is an interesting one. I'll see. I'm looking forward to the internet research. 2 minutes of internet research this week on.
I'm looking forward to just being a communist.
Raising your hand. So, all right. Very good. Bring us home, Ed.
Sounds good. Well, you can find us on awkwardfamilyconversations.com, on Facebook, YouTube, Stitcher, wherever you like to listen at Awkward Family Conversations. And of course, check out our Twitter feed, which I got to add more cat pics to, at Awkward Family C1. And for the wonderful occasional like or conversation from that account when my dad's trying to use his own personal Twitter. Let us know.
That tweet thing confuses me. It's true.
I see that. Let us know what you think. Keep questions, suggestions coming in DMs, in comments, or of course, personal text messages. Thank you to our 6 fans. Love each and every one of you.
And I love you, Addie. Have a great week.
I love you too, Dad.
All right. Bye.
Bye.